Page here, the 1 Foot Flipper. Today we're going to look at 8 more board games that sell for over $100. Some of these sell for over $1,000. Stay tuned.
1 Foot Flipper.
See, that's 1 Foot Flipper's nonsense video.
Hi everybody, Page here, the 1 Foot Flipper. How's it going? It's going great here. Well, at least the YouTube part's going great. Yesterday I hit my all-time high on views for the last 48 hours, not counting a single day where my second video went viral back in February. But since then, yesterday, all-time highest views, which is awesome. Just thank you everybody for continuing to watch. Today, I'm going to work on both trying not to say all the time before I start sentences, and we're going to talk about 8 more board games that sell for over $100. I'm not going to list exact prices on these games because they're all rare, or uncommon at least, and they don't have exact going prices, but all of them should sell for over $100, so if you see them, pick them up. The first one we're going to look at is this 1960s Walt Disney 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea game. This is your basic roll and race game, except it lets you select your own path on a relatively open grid, so you can make turns, and then there's obstacles and monsters and treasures, and whoever makes it into the center first wins. Okay, let's do a few sales. I sold a stack of record albums to the same customer: Jim Croce, Chicago, Bee Gees, the Monkees, and a bunch of Herman's Hermits for looks like a total of $43.52. Cinderella VHS tape sealed, $3.06. Not $3,000. $3.06. I'll put it up on the screen because it's already in a tube. I sold the Lamborghini Countach and Girl Sitting Pretty poster from 1986. I know this poster had to have been a bunch of movies and TV shows or something because everyone seems to recognize it. And I know I didn't have it or anybody I knew had it. So if you know what shows or movies it was on, why don't you post in the comments. I sold a Warhammer Tank partial sprue, $14.77. Those sprues just keep paying out. Sold a sledding snowman girl ornament blank. It's probably about the last ornament you'll see for this year, I think. Usually they taper, because I'm recording this a little bit ahead of time, and usually they have tapered off by the time this will actually come out. And finally, Victor, he's a viewer. He bought both Death Pile Monsters, the classic Death Pile Monster and the Q4 Death Pile Monster. He says, "Love your channel. It's helped me a lot. Thank you." Well, thank you, Victor. I'll put a link to his store down in the description. The second one is the Maul Madness electronic board game. This and the electronic Dream Phone game were the hot items for girls my age when I was 12 years old. Not calling myself a girl, but girl... That is the game that all the girls wanted when I was a tween. It's a big, complex shopping spree game, and it talks, and it's got a huge board that's kind of 3D, and you're going to get more than $100 on this every time, as you will on the Dream Phone as well, if you can find that. In fact, the Dream Phone has gone way up since I've made a video and several shorts about it, because I sold my Dream Phone for about $125, and one just went to $227 on auction a few days ago. So, hey. Next one we're going to look at is the 1970 Milton Bradley Which Witch. It looks like it's a simpler version of Mousetrap with a haunted house theme. I've never seen one of these in person, but if you see one, it'll make you some money. All right, let's look at a few sales here. I'll have to pop it up on the screen because it's in a tube. I got a return on this Anhinga Iki Matsumoto art print. Apparently, I thought it had a real signature on it, but the signature was actually part of the print. I didn't notice it was signed at all until after I took the pictures of it, and I had my wife go down and check it, and she said, "Oh yeah, it's signed for real." It wasn't, so that got returned at $200, and then I put it back up, properly listed at $80, and it sold very quickly. So, but I did have to pay two-way shipping on it, so I'm really going to end up with about $70. It was short enough to not cost extra, 19 inches. so it didn't cost any extra priority mail. Up on the screen, because it's upstairs, Pac-Man Plus video game arcade marquee. That's the piece of plexiglass that goes at the top of the game. It's got the fluorescent light behind it. Lights up for you to see what you're going to play. Sold this Games Workshop 1995 Necromunda Flamer guy, $18.25. Sold a pair of Warhammer sprues. One's here, one's not here. Doesn't matter, they all look the same. $18.15. I'm probably up to $1,700 from that bag of sprues now. Not bad at all. What do we got over here? I sold a ROM card. This goes to a Greyhound video trivia game. You would have seen this in the bars in the early 80s. It would put up trivia questions on the screen and you'd pick the answers. They had various cards with different ROMs on them with categories. This one has MASH, Rich and Famous, Adult Sex, US Trivia, Adult Trivia, and Sports. I've owned multiple of these machines over the years. I actually always quite enjoyed them because they're one of the few games that you could play while you're drinking a beer or just not worrying about being all twitch. And this ROM card was left over for my collection, and it sold for $21.63. I sold this Ultimate Pokemon Christmas present collection, picture up on the screen, to viewer carry. There'll be a link to their store down in the description. I'm probably going to raise the price of these to $30, but if you're a viewer and you want one, just send me a message that says you're a viewer and I'll refund that extra $5. What else do we got? Sold a snowman ornament that says Morgan. Hope it gets there by Christmas. Sold another ornament, says Annie. Also hope it gets there by Christmas. Usually in those listings I put order by December 12th to guarantee Christmas delivery. Sold one specialty dice to the Blood Bowl game, $4.84. They paid more than that to ship it. Sold a couple of record albums. Hall & Oates Live, $5.92. And Winchester Cathedral, the new vaudeville band. And that one was $4.10. Sold this pink stainless steel tumbler, $9.70. Not too bad. Sold a hubcap to a 68 to 72, multiple 68 to 72 Chevy models, $23.51. I don't do a lot of auto parts, but I had that one. A little Live Pets Rain Glow Unicorn, $5.38. I think Julie picked this out at the bins. I had this for a really long time before it sold. I went through a lot of markdowns. I sold a Games Workshop Fantasy Metal Minotaur. He sold for $28.22. He's from back in the 80s. Even though the newer miniatures tend to look better, people really, really prefer the older miniatures. I think it's a combination of nostalgia, and it's just sort of a bling on the tabletop to impress their friends that they have the old ones instead of the ones you can buy in the store. And sold a left-hand train switch, $29.99. Next one up is the Simmeron Strip board game from 1967. This is a Western themed game. You claim areas and shoot at your opponents while eventually trying to make it to the end and see who claims the most land. At least I believe that's how it's supposed to work. And next up, Haunted House. Haunted House is probably going to bring you $500 plus. It's, as you can see here, it's got a really complex multi-level plastic vertical play field. It looks more like an action figure play set than it does a traditional board game. So it might be, you're very likely to find this without the box or just the basic play field all by itself. You still want to buy it. All right, let's do a few more sales. I brought down that Pac-Man marquee sign I was talking about earlier. This is Pac-Man Plus. It was an upgrade. Remember, Pac-Man at the time, it was the best, it was the hottest thing since Milk Steak. But the thing is, it was too easy once you learned how to play the game, and people learned patterns, and people would stay on the game forever. So they came up with this upgrade kit, Pac-Man Plus, that added a few random factors to the game, as well as changing the graphics a little bit, that made it impossible to run patterns or just to play endlessly, no matter how good you were. Although, not too long after this came out, Miss Pac-Man came out, and that kind of blew Pac-Man away and was much more popular. I sold 12 straight pieces of train track, $48 plus shipping. I will make money on the shipping on the train track because of the way my combined shipping works on smaller items. Because my combined shipping on smaller items, base price of $5.99, and it adds $1 per item, so I will definitely make a few bucks on the shipping. Okay, I sold a Pokemon Ultimate Christmas present lot to a viewer, Yvette. I'll put a link to her store down in the description and a picture of it right here. I sold 5 of these Magic the Gathering Phyrexian life counters, different customers, $13 each. Got a few left if you're spying those. Once I actually listed those, they started moving immediately. Sold a Tupperware Devil Egg Keeper, no lid. It's much easier to sell Tupperware lids than it is to sell things missing the lid. The lid is what people always lose. So that took a while to sell. This is an iDog carrying case. An iDog was some sort of iPod accessory musical thing from 20 years ago. Sold for $14.11, and that was originally my wife's. I sold a Avalon Hill Waterloo replacement board to the same guy who bought the other board last week. Not sure why he didn't buy them both together. I had combined shipping available. People do that a lot. Elton John's Greatest Hits, Volume 1 and 2, $16.93. What else do I got here? Oh, hiding right here, a Pokemon Battle Raid deck. These only went out to stores as a promo item, and I sold this for $18. Next up, Titan. This is a fantasy-themed game. It has some connection to Dungeons & Dragons. Some of the designers of it also designed various Dungeons & Dragons products, and it was sold through an ad in Dragon Magazine in the early 1980s. Dragon Magazine was the role-playing game industry magazine in America back then, while it would have been White Wolf Magazine over in Europe. And this Titan is going to bring you a ton of money, as would many other games that were only sold through Dragon Magazine. Number 7. Superman. Now, there are many board games called Superman. We're talking about the one from the 1940s. It's a relatively basic roll the dice and get to the end space game, but because it is so old and it's Superman, it commands a very large price. Okay, I had a few more sales while I was packing up those last ones, so here's some weirdness. Get this. You know how a few minutes ago I sold 12 pieces of railroad track? Went to a guy in California. While I was packing that one up, I got another sale. It's 12 pieces of railroad track to a different guy in California. And I looked on the map, hundreds of miles apart, so it's not the same person. That's just weird. So, yeah, sold $48 more for the tracks to a guy in California. I sold Little Feet Waiting for Columbus, $21.35. I sold this Fisher Price cash register that I got at the Let's Do Lunch podcast meet where we went to the Goodwill bins downtown St. Louis. This was also a scavenger hunt item because it had a squirrel on it. And I sold and cannot find a lot of 3 miniature hand-blown glass dachshunds and dogs. I think I know where those are, though. Next up, from 1979, Cruisin, the gay board game for adults. This is a very rare game, and you'd probably pick it up if you see it anyway, but you'd have... The value on it is absolutely outrageous. It's extremely hard to find. It's got quite a risque cover showing a lot of men having a good time around a public bathroom. And really almost any gay interest board game or gay specific board game is going to be valuable, particularly if the older they are, the more valuable they're going to be. So most of those would be a pickup if you can find them. All right, that's all I've got for today. If you know anybody who collects vintage board games, no matter what the type, why don't you tell them about this channel? I could use the subs. And check down, make sure you're still subscribed. People keep telling me that they thought they were subscribed and you weren't, and they weren't. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.